Hey there, team. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Rise recently, and I've been loving my time with it. And I thought it'd be fun to rank all the monsters in the game. I mean, who doesn't love big monsters, and who doesn't love tier lists? Warning, I guess. The only Monster Hunter game I played besides Rise is around 30 hours of Monster Hunter World, so that might influence my ranks. But okay, let's not waste any more time. We get it. Intro, blah, 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 like and subscribe. Alrighty. Here we go. The Great Azuchi is the first monster you fight in World, or it's supposed to be. And I think it's really solid as the first monster of the game for new players and people who are trying to get familiar with the game. It really teaches you how all the monsters work. I think it's a solid 3 out of 5. I think what's cool about the Azuchi is that he's got the 2 bodyguards that also have like a reasonable amount of HP. I think the tail blade is really cool. The swirling mechanic, he does like the little cyclone twirl, you know what I'm talking about. I think he's good. Like overall, I think it's just like a totally reasonably solid introductory monster. For being the first one you fight, I think Azuchi's challenging enough and interesting enough, and he's got like some cool stuff going with the additional double guards. Yeah, 3 out of 5. Alright, the Great Baggy. I think he's really forgettable. He's just a blue raptor with like no personality and nothing that's visually distinctive. I find this to be a really boring monster. There's not a whole lot I can say. I mean, he puts people to sleep, but who cares? I don't know, I think this thing's so boring. Even for it being a beginner monster, I think this is just really uninteresting. And yeah, I don't know, 1 out of 5. The Kula Yaku gets props for being like a funny monster, and it's like pretty unique. It's a little bird raptor that goes around and steals eggs. I think that's pretty cool. What I like when you fight him is that he'll dig up like big rocks or pots and stuff that you can break or make him drop. I think that's pretty neat. Overall, though, I just don't care for this guy. Like, I think he's just kind of like as a comic relief monster. I don't think he's particularly fun to fight. He's got one interesting thing, and that's that he pulls up rocks. He's not, like, bad, but I wouldn't call him good, you know? 2.5 out of 5. I think just, like, pretty solidly down the middle. He doesn't have anything, like, great going for him, but he doesn't have anything terrible going for him either. The Great Roggy. The Great Roggy, I like the way he looks. I think he's better than the Great Baggy, but at the end of the day, he's just like the better version of the Great Baggy. He's still not really engaging. He kind of just like sits around, and then when it's time to throw a projectile, he throws a projectile. And that's it. Like, you know, I don't despise fighting this thing or dealing with it, but it's also just like an absolute joke, and it's not very intimidating. It's also not very memorable. I don't know, man. 2 out of 5. Azulos. Azulos is really easy to dodge. He's not very intimidating. I like the fact that he's a bear, but he's really small. Like, for bears in real life are really f***ing scary, and this bear is just like such a joke. He's just like a goofus. It's not really worth a lot of attention, but I like the fact that he is a bear, so he gets a 2 out of 5. Alright. Coming up next is another bear monster, the Legambi. I think the Legambi's dope. It's like a half bunny, half bear, and he toboggans places. I think his moveset is way more unique. He does like the big bunny hop, he throws snowballs. Again, the tobogganing, the sliding back and forth. I like that he's got like the armored belly, which makes sense because he does toboggan places. I think this is a really cool and unique type of monster. I like this. I think this is a really unique design. I think it creates like a pretty unique fight with him because you have to try and hit him in the back instead of in the belly. Like, you don't get a lot of that, I think, from other monsters. I'm a pretty big fan of the Legambi. 3.5 out of 5, I would say. Like, better than average for sure. Ah, great. The Vulvodon. 1 out of 5. I hate this thing. I think this monster sucks. He's got some cool stuff, I guess, going for him, that he could poison you or like fart on you or like paralyze you. You know, he's got all that going for him. But I hate that this guy just has no chill. He's constantly in a ball, bouncing around, and sometimes his AI just gives up and will just start running into the wall over and over again. I think this monster sucks. He's probably my least favorite monster in the entire game. The fastest 1 out of 5 I can possibly get. This asshole just runs away all the time, and it's never worth the trouble. Alright, the Acnosum, whatever, the bird. I think the bird's really cool. Actually, for a game with so many flying monsters, this is the only bird I can think of. And he's like a fire crane, and he's got like this cool sort of like metal helm plumage going on. I like the fact that he kind of has like that crane style of martial arts when he's standing. He's got like a lot of sweeps, and he shoots fireballs. This is kind of like the first real intimidating monster you come across in low rank. I think he's pretty cool. Again, he gets a lot of points for being uniquely the only bird, but also I think he visually looks really cool, and his moveset's pretty interesting. I'm not a big fan of the put your head down and run around, like the random charging into people, but I do like all of his other stuff. I like his kicks, I like his fireballs, I like his like bird attacks. Really cool. 4 out of 5, honestly. Alright, the Royal Ludrith. This guy's, I think, just a huge joke. Just, like, I don't really care about what I do. Like, if I have to fight him, like, put no effort into it. He's really easy, and I know that people say this game is easy, but there are some tough monsters that are going to be coming up. This guy's just possibly one of the easiest monsters in the game. And he's just not, you know, he's a wizard with bananas around his neck. That's funny, kind of. That's why he gets 1.5 out of 5. But everything else about him is really boring. You know, you see all these lizards running around that are like small-sized monsters. And what if we just made it bigger and gave it bananas? Yeah, it's the Royal Ludrith. A solid 1.5 out of 5. This might end up being a contentious take. We got the Baroth next. I don't like the Baroth. I just forget about him. I guess, like, you know, it's cool that he's bipedal. It's cool he's got the mud armor mechanic. But I think he's just really lame. I don't think there's, like, a lot of salvation for this monster. For me, personally, I don't know if people really like him. But for me, I think he's such a non-entity. He's so... I don't know, so bland. He feels so bland. I know that he isn't. He's got some unique stuff, but just like, this is probably one of the most forgettable monsters for me. Baroth is a 2 out of 5. All right, up next is the Kazoo. I actually really like the Kazoo. I think he's creepy and gross looking, but he's probably one of the most intimidating monsters you fight. You know, he doesn't play any music when you fight him. He's got those pretty gnarly lightning bolt attacks and the lightning AoE, and he can go up on the ceilings and like shoot lightning bolts at you. And he's got that gross eel or leech, that gross leech looking neck head thing. I think the Kazoo's great. He's like really unique, really distinctive. You can tell the second someone has a Kazoo weapon, which is just like a little bonus to it. I think this is like a really memorable wyvern monster. For all the monsters that are in this game, I really appreciate stuff that visually looks unique and is unique to fight against. And the Kazoo's got some really cool electric attacks that you don't see from other monsters, and he's by far the most unsettling. 4 out of 5. I think the Kazoo's great. Alright, up next is the Tetranodon, whatever. We got this big alligator kappa thing. I think the Tetra is great, honestly. I love this alligator crocodile monster. I think he's really funny looking. I like this sumo aspect of it. I like the fact that he changes his appearance kind of when he gets this big inflated belly, but consuming all that water and then like hydro pumping people. I think his design's really cool. I don't think, you know, you get a lot of alligator monsters, and this is like a really memorable, fun design that I think is pretty cool. And he's not like a pain in the ass to fight. He's actually pretty enjoyable. He's like pretty standard, I would say, on the difficulty curve of the game. But he gets a lot of points for just being so visually unique and fun. I think like this is a really fun design. You get a lot of bipedal monsters. You get a lot of wyvern-looking monsters. You don't get a lot of sumo wrestler alligator monsters. This is pretty unique, and it's cool. I like it. I think this is a pretty good monster. All for it. 3 out of 5. Oh, we got Big Monkey Boy up next. The Bishaten. I love the Bishaten. I think this is like one of the most creative monsters you have in the game in terms of like how you interact with it. So one, he's kind of cool. He's a monkey that can do a tornado spin. He's got like a bunch of weapons he throws at you. He's got like poison fruit, flash bomb fruit, paralysis fruit, just like giant oranges that just deal damage. I think that's cool. He's got like a lot of in-air leaps and stuff. I like the fact that his tail is a hand that he gets to like, you know, perch on and uses like an extra appendage to attack. I think all that's really cool. And then of course I love the fact that you can pick up some of the fruit that he throws at you and you can throw it back at him. Just throw him with poison apples or whatever and just like hit him with I think that's really cool. I think that's really fun. I like this monkey design. I think the design looks cool. I like his attacks. And I love the fact that, you know, you can throw his weapons back at him. That's exclusive to the Bishaten in this game. And I think that's really, really cool. 4.5 out of 5. Easily one of the better monsters. The Puke probably loses a point or two because I've seen it already in World. And it didn't, like, leave that much of an impression on me. I mean, he's another wyvern-looking monster, but sure, he's got really big eyes and looks really silly. Never really came across, design-wise, as like a big, scary beast to be feared. And, you know, he shoots poison at you. He looks kind of gross when he's doing it. He's got the big, goofy tongue. He's not a very challenging monster, not a very, like, scary-looking monster. No, like, real cool mechanics. And I don't think if the only thing you do is you shoot, like, a projectile, makes it like a really solid thing for me. He's not bad, but he's not good. I'm 2 out of 5. How do we pronounce this? Giratodos? The fish? The fish guy? I think the fish is the better version of the Baroth. Not in World. World, you got like the stupid lava fish who sucks, but like this one who just stays in the water and you fight him without like any real movement impairing effects. I think it's cool. You don't fight any other fish in this game, so he's the only fish boy. And I think he's neat. He's got the mud armor mechanic going for him. He looks visually distinct. I don't think he's bad. All right. I think he's just a solid 3 out of 5. There's nothing like wrong with him. He's got some stuff going for him, but he's nothing special. He's a little bit slightly above average in my opinion. I think that makes him a 3 out of 5, like a totally fine monster. I don't know if this is controversial. I don't know a lot of people who are in love with the Besarios. I hate him, but I also like mainly use dual blades, and this guy's like rocky the entire time. I think he's just like, he looks cool. I'll give it to you that he looks cool. He's got some cool stuff kind of going on with the poison and the fire, and that his rocks heat up, they become his weak spots. I think that's all really cool. But this guy's got so much HP and so much defense. It's just a slog beating him. I think this Monster Hunter is at its worst when you're fighting really unengaging monsters that have tons of HP. Because eventually you just like, you're bored. You get it. Like the guy's gonna run into the wall or he's gonna like poop out fire and then that's all. Like he's not the worst monster, but I do think he's up there for me as one of the most boring ones to fight. And because of that, I'm giving him a 2 out of 5. Alrighty, the Somnicanth, the mermaid. I think the mermaid's kind of cool. I like that, you know, they got the little pearl that they crack on their belly like an otter. I think that's neat that they swim on their back. The sleep stuff I think is pretty cool because you can also put to sleep enemy monsters. There's a lot going for the Somnicanth, honestly. It's not a bad monster. It's not my favorite, it's not up there, but I think like in terms of uniqueness, it's pretty solidly unique in its design and kind of in its mechanics. Beyond that, though, it doesn't leave that much of a lasting impression. I forgot how unique it was until I went back and fought every monster again for the video. So it's nothing, like I want to say that it's special, but it's like special in one of the more like less memorable ways. But I think it's fun. I think it's a totally fine monster. 3 out of 5. Alright, how many more of these do we gotta go? A lot? Okay. Wrathion. I think Wrathion's a crappier version of the Rathalos. Like, it's fine. It's not bad. It's like a totally reasonable wyvern monster. It's just the Rathalos exists, so the Wrathion's always gonna be like way worse in my opinion. So she's only getting a 3 out of 5. That's all. It's not a lot to say. We'll talk more about it with the Rathalos. The Barioth is pretty cool. I do get confused just like reading the name with like the Barioth and the Besarios, because these names are all pretty similar. But it's cool. You got this big saber-toothed tiger monster. I actually have a lot of fun fighting this guy. He's got a lot of leaps, he's got a lot of like projectiles, and he's a lot of distance. There's a lot of hopping around sometimes, but for most of the time when you are fighting him, it really does feel like you're fighting this big, giant cat. And I think it's pretty cool. This is kind of the first cat we are going to be talking about out of the 3. I think he's a solid cat, honestly. Like, really feels like you're fighting a giant saber-toothed tiger. Solid monster all around. 3 out of 5. Up next is the Lightning Squirrel, the Tobikadachi. I'm pretty biased about this, I'll admit it. I really like the Tobikadachi in World. I was happy to see him come back and Rise. Yeah, I think it's just fun. I think he's a unique body shape, and he does a hop off the wall lightning attack, a lot of tail swipes, some pretty fun electricity happening. I like the Tobikadachi. I can understand if people think he's a little bit bland. He doesn't have a whole lot going for him, but I think in the visual department, he's pretty reasonable in terms of overall monsters, even if like some other lightning monsters do his effects, but better. Overall though, 3.5 out of 5. I really like him. I think he's fun. Okay. The Magnamolo, the big bad guy of the game. He's cool. He's like a Japanese samurai warrior cat. He's got that cool like 3-pointed spear for a tail. He puts like those little like fire blight, hellfire, whatever status effects on you. I like the fact that he's got big purple fireballs and stuff. This guy's really cool. He goes fucking crazy when he goes special. You know, he's I think he's fun. This is a good monster. I think overall it's a really solid monster. It's a really crazy looking monster. When a lot of people have been saying how easy the game is, I think they think in a lot of the 1s and 2s and 3s that I've been talking about before. The Magnamolo is pretty challenging, I would say, for your first fight against him, and maybe even a couple others. I've had a few people faint while fighting the guy. He's tough, you know, it's comparatively. He doesn't let up. He's really aggressive. He's got a lot of big fireballs that come at you. He's cool. Big fan. Magnamolo, 4 out of 5. Easy 4 out of 5. The Anjanath. I was surprised this wasn't in the movie. The Anjanath, I think, is one of the most like simplistic, but also like really creative designs. He's kind of like the Charizard of the game. He is a T-Rex that shoots fireballs. That's just really cool. You can't get over that. He's fun to fight. He's like always running around. He's got big tails, big feet, big mouth, and he shoots big fireballs from it too. He's fun. This is a solid design. You can't be mad at. This is a 4 out of 5. A really fun monster to fight, in my opinion. Really feels like the big, scary T-Rex monster. A little less in this game as opposed to World, but still like a really good time. Really hard to fight. A monster you really have to treat honestly. You can't just like roll your eyes and start mashing buttons or he'll get you. Yeah, 4 out of 5 for sure. Okay, Nargakuga. Nargakuga's cool. He's got a lot of the same pros that the, the Barioth has, except he's a giant panther instead of a giant saber-toothed tiger. I think the Nargakuga looks pretty cool, and he's got those projectiles that come from his tail, which are a little bit more unique, I guess. That his tail, like he shoots these spikes out of his tail instead of just magically having like ice breath or laser beams or something. Overall, he has the same pros that the Barioth has, but he's also, I think, a little bit more wild. Jumps around a little bit more intimidating, and a lot more fun to fight, I think. I end up enjoying fighting the Nargakuga more than the other cats entirely. It's just personal preference. I like that he's a big giant panther. I like that he's got like the sharp feathers he shoots from his tail. I think that's fun. 4 out of 5. Just like an overall solid monster. Like a really, really solid one. The Mizusune. This one, the soapy laser beam bubble beam boy. He's fun. This is a great monster. 4 out of 5, just right off the bat. Really cool, really pretty looking monster too. He's sliding around, shooting his laser beams at you. He's got the bubble mechanics that are pretty good. He's whirling around. This is one, he looks really cool. He's really unique to fight. He's annoying when you get the bubbles and you're slipping and stuff, but I think I would much rather fight monsters that are distinct and different from the usual bipedal or wyvern model type. And the Mizusune happens to be really fun to fight, as well as not be so generically looking. Just like a really good time, like really unique, really solid looking monster. Getting used to the slipping and sliding in the fucking bubble is annoying, but once you get used to it, I think this is actually a really fun fight. 4 out of 5. Alright, up next is the Gazarog, and that's my favorite monster. 5 out of 5. This is a demon armor wearing polar bear who will just freeze his hands into 2 giant ice swords like Baraka. You know, he goes to town. I think this is a really cool looking monster, and he's actually really fun to fight. There's not a whole lot of garbage that comes from him. Not a lot of one hits into stuns into then instant KOs. Not a lot of running and spinning around and like constantly running away. He's a pretty aggressive bear. I love polar bears. They're my favorite animal. And this guy is a polar bear in demon armor, and I think he's really cool. I think it looks really cool and the fight's really fun. Probably not the most fun fight in the game, but I think the fact that I just really love the way he looks, combined with the fact that he's got some really cool stuff. He can freeze on like a boxing glove or a giant blade. He's got the laser beam attack. He's like pretty aggressive, so you don't have to like be chasing him down all the time. Like overall, I think this is just a super fun fight. As far as monsters go, he's probably my favorite visually looking monster and like my favorite concept of a monster. Gazarog, 5 out of 5, all day, every day. Alright, yeah, up next is the Rathalos. You might remember him from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. He's pretty good, reasonably solid. Better than the Wrathion, I would say, so 3.5 out of 5. There are more unique monsters that do the same stuff as him, but he's like a classic. You know, I think he's like the base plate. He's the Ryu of monsters in Monster Hunter, and I think he's really good. You know, reasonably fun. If you don't treat him honestly, you're gonna get killed. If you respect the Rathalos, he's like a pretty normal fight. I guess in this game comparatively above normal. There's some fights that are pretty boring. The Rathalos is always engaging, but so many monsters it feels like are based off the Rathalos that you kind of like get some diminishing returns with him. I think he's fine. He's like fun, and he's an iconic classic monster, and he f***ed people up in the movie. So you know, 3 out of 5. Up next is Almadron, who at first I had given a 3 out of 5 to, but then when I played him, I fought him again a couple of times for making this video, and he just went down. He went down. He's a 2.5 out of 5. He's just too slippery, man. The Mizusune doesn't bury itself underground or anything like the Almadron does. The Almadron just goes underground, he slides away, then you sprint towards him, and then he hops in the air and keeps you running away. I like the fact that he makes his own platforms with mud. I like the design of him. I think he's actually got a really cool, interesting design. And I think when he lets you fight him, he is fun to fight. But the fact that he is always running, I hate that so much in this game. Your moves are very committal. You have to really commit to an attack. And when monsters are just always running away, I think it's so frustrating. And this guy never wants to fight. He wants to run all the time. And for someone who's so big, I think that that's just real lame. I don't have a lot of fun fighting this guy. He gets all of his points from all the things when he's in the mood to participate with the game. When he's in the mood to play the game, well, he's probably like a 3 out of 5, maybe a 3.5 out of 5. But because he absolutely refuses, he's going down to 2.5 out of 5. Ooh, hitting the final trek here. We got the big dogs. Pun not super intended. Zinogur. Zinogur's great. Really, really cool looking monster. Probably one of the hardest monsters. Probably the monster I failed the most on, because people don't respect this guy. If he hits you once, you're dazed. And if you're dazed and he smells that you're dazed, you're dead. A really intimidating monster, really cool looking. Giant lightning wolf, very, very cool. And really aggressive. A lot of aggressive attacking. I'm a big fan of it. I think this is a really fun, really cool monster to fight that you gotta respect it. He can f*** you up. 4.5 out of 5 for sure. Zinogur is like a fan favorite, and very understandably so. Okay, we got the Tigrex coming up, who I think is Tigrex, whatever. I actually have him pretty low. I didn't like the Tigrex because I thought he was pretty one-dimensional, but playing him recently, I actually thought it was pretty fun. Constantly rushing into you, He really wants to fight you. I think his visual design is really bland. I don't think this is a very visually compelling monster design. I do think I'm much more of a fan of monsters that are just going to keep on attacking you, right? And the Tigrex has no fear. He doesn't know what fear is. He only knows hunger and anger. He only holds W. I think this is a really fun fight, honestly. For like a monster I think is pretty bland overall, the fact that the fight is really fun for me like boosts him up significantly. He's a 3.5 out of 5 for sure. Just a real constantly aggressively engaging fight. The Diabolos. Yeah, straight from Deckard Cain's mouth, Diabolos. I think he's ruined in this game because I played him in World, and in World he's really cool. You got this cutscene where he drags you down to his chambers and he's able to jump in and out of the walls and stuff, and he's really, really fun. In this game you fight him in a big open desert and he's kind of bland. He's still pretty scary at times, and he's a pretty good fight overall. It's just I've had a better Diabolos fight in my life. And I've had to fight him so many times because me and my friends had to grind him for some gear. And he's a very know-nothing monster to me. I just think if he had a better arena that he could do things in, he would be a better monster. But unfortunately, he's just in a big giant desert with nothing in it. And that leads to him being a very easily manageable monster overall. 3 out of 5. Like, he gets a lot of that through Legacy, not through actual gameplay in this game. The Raknakadaki. I hate bugs, right? I hate bugs. I hate spiders. I think they're super gross. Really, really not a fan of them. I think the Raknakadaki is really, really cool. It's like a really dope monster. I like the fact that it's this big, bony spider that's, you know, its armor is its own silk, and it carries like the egg sacs of its little baby spiders behind it, and it gets to incorporate all this stuff in its fights. That's side flamethrowers, it's front fire laser beams, it goes on the ceiling, it does all these really, it does the what's her name? The Qualag fire explosion. I think all that's really cool. I think this is a super dope monster. There's a lot of fun mechanics happening around with it. I'm trying to think of a problem I have with this fight. It's like maybe a little bit too easy, at least for me. I don't have a problem with it. You know, you knock it down, you beat up its head for a little bit, and then it gets back up. Unfortunately, I played with people who seem to be struggling with it, so maybe I just have a lot of confident experience fighting it. It really feels like a Dark Souls boss. It really feels like a Dark Souls boss, specifically Qualag. So maybe that's why I'm very comfortable fighting it. I think this one's great. I think the Raknakadaki is awesome. Visually, it's really cool. The concepts are really cool, and the fight mechanics are really cool. I did have this at a 4.5, but after just gushing about it, I think it's a 5 out of 5 monster. I think this monster's actually sick. I think it only lost points because it was a spider, but, you know, we'll track that to me just being grossed by creepy crawlies, man. This thing is so cool. This is such a fun fight for me. I love fighting the Raknakadaki. Probably one of the most fought monsters in the game for me. Alright, the Kushalador. No one seemed happy that this dragon was getting into the game. Apparently he was really annoying in other versions. I thought he was pretty fun. You know, he didn't seem to be that annoying, seemed pretty manageable. There's a lot going on with him. He gets a lot of points for being a dragon, like an actual like English-looking dragon, as opposed to like a wyvern. He's pretty cool. I like the Kushalador. I just had to look at his name because I forgot what his name was. That's not a great sign. But yeah, he's like a 3 out of 5. I don't think this fight's particularly special. It's like slightly better than average. You're constantly being engaged, but it goes on for a little too long. He flies away a lot. He keeps you at his distance a lot. But like once you get in, you're able to get in. You're able to beat him up for a bit. But overall, I don't think he's not like a top tier fight for me. 3 out of 5. So the Camellios I had pretty low on the list. I didn't find him memorable. Going back again and like really paying attention for the video, he's pretty cool. He's got some stuff. He's got some neat purple poison explosions and laser beams. Him going invisible, I never really felt did anything, honestly. And I don't really like his design. I don't think he looks very good. I don't know, he's got a lot going on in his butt area. I didn't know that was a tail. Whatever that is, I don't know. But the fight's pretty whatever. I think when he's got poison out, this is probably the most engaging poison monster in the game. You got a lot of stuff you got to dodge, and he's, you know, like really sparting and splorting stuff all over the place. And I think that's fun. I think that's cool. He's a bit of a challenge when that comes out. But when he's not shooting poison, this guy's the biggest joke. He's such a pushover and like really forgettable. It wasn't until I was really paying attention to see like what the poison was doing and how his poison mechanics worked was I impressed and thinking he was pretty good. But overall, 3 out of 5. I think, I think for half the fight he's really forgettable, and for the other half he's like a really solid dodge poison projectile monster. So he doesn't get very high on the ratings. 3 out of 5. The Teostra, am I saying that right? The Lion Elder Dragon. I think this guy's dope. This is a 4 out of 5. I think he's really cool. I think he visually looks pretty cool. He's alright visually. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. But then like mechanically, I love it. He puts these little sparking bombs down that he then activates. He's really aggressive. I love the visuals that like his fire is blue and red and then he gets like super hot and stuff. It might be a little hard to see in the visuals because he loves hanging out in areas where it's really hard to tell what the f is going on. Bright orange and bright red lights all over the place, which is unfortunate, but I don't think that's like a mark against the monster itself, because when you leave the inside of the volcano, I think you get to really see him, and you have to really respect him. He's probably the hardest out of the DLC characters so far, and the most fun for me. Really, really good time playing against the Teostra, the Sanctuary Guardian. He's got a lot of sick moves, and I love these fire bombs. I think that's a really neat concept, because he also has like other fire laser beams and flamethrowers and stuff. It's like a solid fight overall. Really good. Really fun time. Alrighty. The Regen, 5 out of 5. I think this guy's so cool. Design-wise, I think it's really cool. He's like a water buffalo meets a gorilla. He's got these big arms. He just beats you up and like grapples you and stuff. I think that's really cool. Really unique compared to all the other monsters here. And then he gets supercharged, becomes some type of lightning zebra gorilla monster. He shoots laser beams. He's just like got these crazy wrestling moves, incredibly aggressive, like really respectable. Like one I love his design, both pre-lightning and post-lightning. I love his like massive aggression. I love the fact that he's grappling you and stuff. And other monsters have grabs, but this one I think feels much more brutal. He's always a threat. You can't take the Regen lightly. You always got to treat him honestly. Really, really cool. Really fun fight. Probably my favorite monster to fight in the game, for sure. I think the Regen is just like what I want. Just like this big, scary monster that if he gets you, you're dead. And I think that's really, really cool. Huge fan. 5 out of 5. Top tier. Alrighty. We have the last of the DLC characters for now, and it's the Basil Goose. Basil Goose? Whatever. The Basil Goose is like a 2.8 out of 5. And the reason I'm giving him that is that he's unique. I like that he's unique. I like that he's, you know, he kind of comes in and he fights you while you're fighting other monsters, and I think that's cool. I like that he's mainly flying. Not a lot of monsters in this game that fly and have wings fight you from the air. Nobody else. So I really like that the Basil Goose is dropping bombs on you and stuff. I think that's really unique. I think this is like, he's like a real projectile zoner monster. And none really are like that, in all honesty, where they're constantly shooting projectiles at you. I know it makes him like pretty annoying to fight, but I really respect the creativity and I like the idea. Like he's supposed to be like that third party or that ganker, that monster who gets you when you're not expecting. And a lot of these monsters, you know, you see videos of them and they're like hunting and stalking their prey. But the Basil Goose is really the only monster that comes out of nowhere when you're least expecting it. And so he definitely gets a lot of points for that. Beyond it, I think he's kind of I think he's kind of annoying. I praise the idea of projectiles, but I don't think they're fun to fight against. At least his. They're pretty lame. So I think he's better than average, but just slightly. So like 2.8 out of 5. The Abushi, 1 out of 5. I hate this thing. I don't like the rampage quests, and the fact that you have to do a rampage quest to fight the Abushi is, in my opinion, pretty lame. And then the Abushi itself doesn't do anything, you know? It's just kind of like a big eel. It's like a big eel that's kind of like flipping out, just spinning around constantly. It's not really intimidating. It doesn't do anything, you know? I fought this thing a couple times, and I've been really bored the entire time I fought it. While I would say the Vulvodon is my least favorite monster to fight because he's constantly running away, the Abushi is the most boring monster for me to fight. He's got a lot of HP. I don't care about it. It's not very engaging. Even if you choose to use one of the rampage turrets or choose not to use it, it doesn't really change the speed of the fight in my experience. It's not a lot of fun I have fighting it. This is probably the least, it's up there as one of the least fun fights, I think. It just takes way too long, and you don't do anything. Kind of just hit it as it stands still. Abushi, 1 out of 5. Alrighty, and the last monster, the boss of the game, the Narwha, is a 2 out of 5. I like the idea that they're going for, that you fight him in this big arena, and you know, he does like other video game boss mechanics where he drops platforms down that you hop on to hit him in the weak spot, and you can like use these items to shoot at him while you dodge these giant Super Metroid rings. Like this, that's fun. That's cool. The idea is there. That's just not what I play Monster Hunter for. I don't like that I can't use all my different combos. I don't like that, you know, you're fighting people for use of one of the 2 turrets. I don't like that you have to use the turrets. I don't like that you know, he just stands still and doesn't move while you hit him in the weak spot after his, like, attack pattern is over. I think it's a really boring fight, but he's got some more creative stuff than the Abushi because at least there's, like, a constantly shifting arena. He still has a lot of HP. He doesn't move a whole bunch. He's more engaging than the Abushi, but I would much rather fight other monsters in Monster Hunter than the Abushi and the Narwha. And the Narwha is just a slightly better Abushi, so it's a 2 out of 5. Yeah, it kind of sucks to end that on such like a sour note with the Abushi and Narwha, but overall, I think most of these monsters are like above average. They're really fun to fight in Monster Hunter Rise. I wouldn't play a game if I wasn't enjoying my time with it. I really like when these monsters get really creative or when they get really aggressive or both. And hopefully we get to see some more additional monsters that get to be really aggressive and really creative in both their designs and their mechanics. I'm not a big fan of just having like a big lizard who like walks around and then will occasionally shoot a projectile at you. I think that's really boring and it's really easy to dodge. The one thing I don't want to do in Monster Hunter is be bored, and I can get bored by either like 3 things. Thing number 1, something like the Vulvodon where they're just bouncing around and running away from me. If they're always running away from me, I'm not happy, right? I'm bored. I'm not playing the game. If they're just doing the same moves over and over again that are really predictable and really easy to dodge and like ignore, I'm unhappy. I'm bored because I'm not being engaged, right? I'm not like, it's not really stimulating. It's not really engaging. And then the last thing that could get me really bored in a monster fight is massive amounts of HP or defense. If you're already playing with like 3 to 4 people, these monsters already have just such high HP. It's just so boring because they're not that engaging, like difficulty wise. And like when I'm already spending like 20 minutes on a fight, that's too long. It's too long to spend 20 minutes fighting one monster. They just have too much HP, and I think that gets really boring and really bogs down the game. But for the most part, a lot of the monsters like the Magnamolo, the Mizusune, the Gazarog, the Zinogur, I think they have a lot of really aggressive attacks, really unique mechanics behind them, and I think they're really fun to fight, and I'd hope to see more stuff like that from it. But again, overall, a lot of fun playing Monster Hunter, and most of these monsters are pretty fun to fight. Only a few of them, I think, are bad. But yeah, all right. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good one. And take it easy.